Hello, it's Andrew from artstudy.pro. Today I'll teach you how to paint a white orchid in oil painting technique. Well, as always, I started with a drawing. We just need a quick sketch for this painting. I use a fiber board with priming for this picture. Be careful because this priming on a fiber board is really bad for a pencil. It's really hard to erase the pencil from this material. So we don't need a lot of details. We just need big proportions of main parts of this flower, and we need some action lines and the main composition in a page, so we can work with our painting, with our colors. So don't try to draw everything, don't try to make it perfect, just try to find the main composition. You can see here that everything except large forms is done approximately. This is my palette. From the left side clockwise we have carbon black, violet, ultramarine, viridian, emerald green, dark brown, natural amber, burnt umber, carmine, sienna, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, Neapolitan flesh color, and titanium white. When you work on oil painting, it's better to start with shadows, the darkest parts of your image, and only then you can work with midtones and in the end with lights. So here I started with Drapery. It has a violet color. It's the main background of our flower. So I mixed my paints, the violet, the ultramarine, and a little bit of carmine. I used a carmine in shadows because the light is cold and shadows are warm here. The shadows must be transparent, so you can use more solvent if you need to add some lightness. Be very careful with white color. Here I started with a pot. We have an interesting texture inside this glass pot of roots and bark. So my first strokes are light. This is the light part. And also here I added a little bit of different details of this bark. As you see here, you can clean up your brush with a piece of cloth. You need to do it when you want to change the color of your mix, so the color will be clean and bright. I added some dark parts of these roots and of this bark, and also we need to remember about the big form, the form of this glass pot. So we need to work with these big shadows to make it three-dimensional with these light shadows and midtones of this object. And also these little shadows of bark and this texture inside the pot we can add later and fix some issues with it. So we walk from big forms to small forms. To paint this glass pot we need to remember the basic shapes like a cylinder, to find light, midtone, shadow and reflexes. Glass material catches a lot of reflections from other objects nearby, so you can see some different colors on it. Also it has many highlights and we need just to find them and repeat in our painting. Be careful with the brightness of these reflexes and highlights. We need to have the recognizable light part and shadow part of a pot. These details can break up a light shape and it will make the whole object flat and two-dimensional, and we don't need it to be like that. Here I was adding some back parts of this glass pot and some little details in roots and in bark. A little bit of dark shadows also. We need to cover all light parts of our painting to start to find the main relations in color and in tone of different parts of this painting. That's why I'm trying to finish these white spots on a pot and then I can work with leaves and with white flowers of orchids. I use some different colors with different shades. It's different shades of green. It's a little bit of carmine in shadows also with sienna, and I used a little bit of carbon black. But be careful with this color because the black color can easily make your painting too dirty. So just a little bit, just some more shadows, and we can leave this for the end of our painting to add some more details and to make it better in illusion of glass. So I'm trying to mix some other colors here at this moment. I just showed you a palette. So yeah, here I was trying to paint the leaves. I was searching for the correct color. The leaves are quite warm in this green color. Don't use a lot of green. Try to mix green shades for your paintings, because green color in tubes in packages, they are quite bad and they're quite synthetic. It's better to mix your own green colors with yellow and with ultramarine and with blue. So here I have this leaf. It has different sides, a shadow side and light side. And now you can see that I was adding this trunk. This trunk is quite dark at this down part, and it will be quite light at the top side. So it's not the final solution of the background. I will finish it later, and just now I need to make these leaves with these colors. So here I was painting the right leaf. This leaf was a little bit darker, but the upper side was quite light, with a lot of light. So I just leave it without color, this up part, and I think I edit it later. So here we have these three leaves. I used a lot of different shades. These leaves are not the same. They are different in this light tone. Yes, here you can see that I added this upper part of this leaf, and you can see that these two leaves that are in the left side, they are quite warm. They are in the shadow part, and this right leaf has a really strong cold light on the upper side, and I'll make it even with more contrast later using background darker tone of new layer. We can fix the silhouette also with the background, and I used here a little synthetic brush for this kind of strokes, and I finished with leaves and started to make these yellow centers of these white flowers. I started with yellow, open yellow from the tube, and then I added some white in it. I added some different shades to make these parts not just the same. They also have different sides, like dark sides with shadows and other sides with some light parts. We don't need a precise rendering with the lighting here, but try to make it with different shades of colors and also in tonal relations. So I made it like that, and you can see that they don't look too flat. They look just fine. We have some variety, and it makes our painting more alive and complex. So here I was painting these petals, and I used a lot of white color in my mix. I must say that white color is must have, especially if you want to make a pasty picture. For this part I was mixing the white color with different shades, with ultramarine, with some amber in shadows, because shadows are warm with cold light, as we remember it. And don't take a lot of additional colors on your brush in this mixing. So I used just a little bit of ultramarine in light and a lot of white paint, and I used just a little bit of burnt umber and natural umber in shadows to make this cold and darker shadows of these white flowers here. You can see that I was adding more background drapery because as you can see my background was quite light. We just needed to make it darker to be like on the model, like in life in this orchid. So as you can see at the left side we have these two leaves. Now they are less contrast, so we have a better contrast at the right part because our light source, the sun, is shining from the upper right corner, and the right side is a section with the most illumination on it. And the left side is a shadow section with less contrast and some blurring. This relation of light and dark parts of the same object makes it more real and three-dimensional as a result. So, in this new layer of a background, a violet drapery, I used more thickness with a little bit of white color in a mix. I was experimenting with this texture, with a lot of solvent. I think it can be quite interesting to do such unpredictable effects. Wet mix with the solvent can organize a layer of painting with some transparency. We can see this white priming on a fiberboard under our painted colors. Here in this work I tried to combine different thickness to form different cover layers of my painting. So now you can see the stage when I was adding some details, some deep shadows in these flowers, as you can see, and here I was adding a little bit more of light parts, these highlights on the flower petals. For these light parts I used just a white paint, maybe just a little amount of some blue or ultramarine at this point. As you can see, sometimes we can change our focus from large relations to some small ones. Try to see the picture as a whole. Also, a little bit of rolling can help you to see some of your mistakes. Here you can see how I was finishing the petals of these white flowers and was adding some deep shadows beneath these objects. And here I was finishing the glass pot because it was with some issues. The symmetry is not fine at this moment, and also I needed to find some shadows and inside the glass pot with this bark and some roots of an orchid. And the background, the cast shadow of this pot is also undone here, as you can see. I'll make it just in a moment. At this stage the petals are almost finished, and I needed to make the improvements in illusion of glass material in a pot. So I was working with the highlights that are not needed in the shadow part. I was fixing them, making them darker. At this point the left part leaves are a little bit too flat, and the contrast in a drapery in a background is a tool to make them better with three-dimensional rendering. As you can see here, the glass pot took the most time to render all the relations in colors and lighting, but it makes your painting more interesting and adds some realism to these quick walks. Just few more strokes and it will be finished. Every part of a painting needs to be a little bit different from others in the case of nuance, and also to give to a viewer's eye a hint and an interest in a simple form. Some last pourings to make the background better near the pot, with the cast shadow at the left side and between the leaves to correct their flatness. At this point the background, this wild drapery, is a little bit too intensive. This texture with a lot of solvent makes it too harsh, and our point of interest is not this drapery. The point of interest is a flower, its petals, and this white part with tonal contrast at the upper parts of our painting. So I also fixed these issues with the background. These improvements are so tiny that it's even hard to see all of them at this point, but I assure you, in the complex they can make the painting much better and finished. I like to make a lot of corrections at the end stage, but your perfectionism can ruin the fresh look of your painting. So stop early, before the painting is messed up with too much of corrections. Try to leave it with a fresh look and not dirty and stale colors. The finish is more responsible than the start of this kind of work, so be careful. Now you can see the final result with better lighting, the model and the painting. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you like this kind of stuff, and check out my Facebook page. I have a lot of different tutorials there. So good luck and goodbye.